I woke up on a Thursday that didn't look any different from the thousands that came before it. The coffee machine hissed. The cat knocked a spoon off the counter and looked at me like I'd done it. The toaster burned the second slice because of course it did. I had no way of knowing that in the next 14 hours I would lose a job, a home, a relationship, and the carefully arranged version of myself I'd been presenting to the world for years. And I had even less idea that by the end of it, I would also know, finally, painfully, who actually cared about me and who only cared about what I could provide. My name is Daniel Alvarez. I'm 41 years old, an operations manager with a tidy resume and a messier heart. I live, or lived, in a city that smells like ocean and brake dust in an apartment that I kept too clean because messes made me nervous. For 6 years, I'd been with a woman named Camille who loved order, success, and long dinners, where we pretended we weren't exhausted. We had plans. A house in 2 years, maybe a kid in 3, a joint trip to Italy when our stocks hit a number we agreed meant responsible spontaneity. You get the picture. We were the kind of couple who put our future on spreadsheets and never noticed how mediocre our present felt. At 8:13 a.m., a calendar alert told me I had a quick touch base with my boss, Marissa. I didn't know that phrase, so harmless, would be the first domino. The conference room already smelled like someone else's coffee when I walked in. HR was there. HR is never there for a good reason. Marissa had that tight, apologetic smile people wear when they want credit for empathy they don't feel. "Daniel," she began. "This isn't easy." She talked for a while. A blur of restructure and economic headwinds, and your skill set is strong, but HR handed me a folder that had my name on it like a tombstone. Severance details, Cobra options, a list of career coaches the company had vetted, as if throwing me off a ship and then offering a laminated brochure on swimming techniques was kindness. Is there anything I could have done differently? I asked when she paused for breath, surprising myself with the softness in my own voice. Marissa looked at me like I'd asked why rain was wet. "It's not about performance," she said. "Your whole division is being eliminated. What about the São Paulo project? The launch is next month." "Not our problem anymore," she said, and actually reached for her coffee as if the subject bored her enough to require caffeine. I cleaned out my desk in silence. A paperclip chain I'd made during a tedious compliance training. A photo booth strip of Camille and me. The ink faded so our smiles looked almost ghostly. The coffee mug my sister had given me that said, "World's okayest brother." My team, no, my former team, avoided my eyes. People are not as bad as we think, but we are more frightened than we admit. Fear makes cowards of almost all of us. By 10:07, I was on the sidewalk with a banker's box and nowhere to go. The city hummed around me, indifferent. I texted Camille, "Call me when you can." "Big news," she replied almost instantly. "Crazy day. Can we talk tonight?" I almost wrote back, "I just got laid off, but something stopped me." Maybe pride, maybe curiosity about which version of me she would prefer to meet later. The one who softened the blow for her, or the one who needed her to share it. I told myself I'd tell her in person. Told myself a lot of things that day. I decided to walk home. It was 4 miles, and the air had the salty, bright taste of early summer. I told myself the walk would clear my head, that the rhythm of steps would stitch the morning into something tolerable, but my head filled with math instead. Rent, severance, savings. The way numbers rearrange themselves when one pillar gets kicked out. At noon, my phone buzzed. A notification from my building's maintenance portal. "Urgent water leak in Unit 4B, yours. Please contact management immediately." I called. Julio, the building super, answered on the first ring. "Danny, where are you?" "Walking home," I said. "What's going on?" "A pipe burst in the wall behind your kitchen. We shut off the water, but there's bad damage. Ceiling in the hallway fell. The floor in the bedroom ruined." "Ruined?" I repeated like an idiot. "Insurance will handle it," Julio said. "But you can't stay there. At least not for a few days. Maybe weeks." "Julio, I almost told him about the job. Instead I said, "Okay, I'll be there in 20. I ran the last mile. When I arrived, the building smelled like wet drywall and despair. Men in boots carried fans and dehumidifiers past me, nodding with pity I couldn't afford. Julio met me in the hallway outside my door. He put a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, amigo. The apartment looked like a mouth with 3 teeth knocked out. The ceiling in the hall had indeed collapsed. The bedroom carpet squished under my shoes. The kitchen cabinets gaped, as if they knew I had nowhere to put anything. We'll put you in a hotel, Julio said. Management will cover it. Pack a bag for a week. I grabbed the basics while men in uniform spoke competent words I couldn't absorb. I packed 1 suit for what? 2 pairs of jeans, shirts I could pretend were deliberate choices. I took my laptop, my passport, the photo booth strip. I left the world's okayest brother mug in the sink. I didn't know then that I wouldn't see it again. By 2:30, I had a key card to a business hotel that smelled like citrus and bleach. I sat on the bed and laughed once, a short, ugly sound. Losing a job was a story people understood. Losing a home to a pipe was a story people found funny. Losing both before lunch felt like cosmic overkill, like a writer too in love with plot twists. I texted Camille. Can we meet at the apartment at 6? Something happened with the place, she wrote back. 6 works. I have news too. I tried to nap. I stared at the ceiling until the textured paint made shapes that looked like continents. I thought about calling my mother. I didn't. She'd worry, then worry louder at me for not calling sooner. Thought about texting my sister, Anna. I didn't. She'd send links to jobs I wasn't qualified for, then drive across town and feed me like I was 6. I told myself I'd tell them tomorrow, when I had language that didn't make me sound like I was asking for rescue. At 5:45, I walked back to the apartment. The hallway hummed with machines that sucked at the air like starving mouths. Camille texted, "Here." She was in the lobby scrolling her phone, her face in I'm annoyed mode. What happened? She asked, stepping carefully around a wet floor sign as if it might stain her shoes. Pipe burst, I said. They're putting me in a hotel for a while. I realized I'd said me, not us. She glanced toward the apartment. Is it bad? Bad enough. Ceiling floors? Packed a bag. Okay, we can talk in the lobby. She didn't want to see the mess. I didn't want to remember that she didn't. We sat on the gray couch that had seen so many packages delivered by men who called me boss. Camille crossed her legs and folded her hands, her meeting posture. So you go first? I got laid off, I said before pride could filter the truth. Today, restructure, whole division. She blinked. Wow, I know. How long is the severance? She asked, practical. Not unkind, but not gathering me close the way part of me had stupidly hoped. 3 months' pay, I said. Healthcare continuation if I pay through the nose. I'll land something. It's just today, she nodded, a small, efficient motion. Okay, I'm sorry, Daniel. I waited for the but. It arrived right on schedule. But I also have news. I got the offer from Helios. Her eyes lit in a way they hadn't for me in months. The London office. I tried to make my face move. That's big. It's a huge step, she said. Global team. Better salary. I'd be managing a portfolio across Europe. When? I asked, though I already knew the answer wouldn't be in a year when we've planned it together. 2 months, she said. They want me by July, 2 months. My severance lasted 3. I did the math because math was easier than pain. We'd have to do long distance for a while, she said. See how it goes. Right, I said. Long distance. She looked at me, her face kind, her eyes somewhere else. Daniel, I care about you. I do, but the last year, we've both felt it. The drift. I've been trying to decide how to say this for weeks. Today doesn't change that, and I don't want to be cruel by pretending. Say it, I said. Because sometimes you need to hear the chord fully, not feel it thrumming under your skin. I think we should end it, she said softly, even if Helios hadn't come through. We want different things, or maybe we want the same things but not with each other. I nodded. It hurt in a clean way, like pulling a splinter that's lived too long under your skin. Pain, relief, then a grief that doesn't know where to sit. Okay, I said. My voice didn't break, which felt like an insult to the moment. I'll get my things this weekend, she said. I'll Venmo you for the last utilities. Utility. It's a word that looks neutral on the page and sounds like absence when spoken. She stood, hesitated, squeezed my shoulder in a gesture so polite it belonged to colleagues after a layoff, then left. At 6:22 p.m., in less than a work day, I had become an unemployed man with no place to live and no partner to come home to. I walked back to the hotel through streets that suddenly felt borrowed. The elevator doors opened on my floor to reveal a man my age in a suit, still wearing his conference lanyard. He said, "How's it going?" The way men say it when they expect good you. I said, "It's going," which can mean anything, and we both let it. I sat on the edge of the bed and finally called my sister. "Anna," I said when she answered, and she said, "What happened?" 'Cause sisters hear it in your hello. I told her the whole thing, or rather I told her the facts like headlines. She listened and then said, "I'm coming over. You don't have to." "I'm coming over," she repeated and hung up. 15 minutes later, she knocked, carrying a plastic bag that smelled like my childhood. Arroz con pollo, still warm. She put it on the desk, opened the lids, took out a fork. "Eat," she said. "I'm not eat, I ate." The first bite made my chest ache because sometimes love tastes like turmeric and bay leaves, and time you didn't have but someone else made for you. When I finished, Anna refilled my water glass like I was a plant. "You're staying with me," she said. "I have a hotel." "For a week," she said. "Then what?" "You need family. I need someone to fix the drawer that sticks in the kitchen. This is not charity. It is a transaction. You don't have to. I get it," she said gently. "You don't want to be a burden. Newsflash, you are my brother. You are allowed to be human around me." I cried then. Ugly loud. She sat next to me and put her head on my shoulder like she used to do when we were kids waiting for our mother to get off her late shift. We didn't speak for a long time. When our breathing matched, she said, "Who else have you told?" "No one," I admitted. "You're going to call Mom," she said. "She'll freak out, then cook enough food to feed a zoo. You will let her because it helps her the way it helped me to bring you arroz con pollo. I don't want her to worry." "She will worry whether you call or not," Anna said. Worry is her love language. We laughed, leaking grief and broth. She stayed until I fell asleep sitting up. When I woke, the room was dark and she was gone, but she'd left a note. 8 a.m., I'm picking you up. Pack. We're going to Home Depot because grief and caulk fill different holes. The next morning, I shaved because it felt like something I could complete. I packed my bag, which now looked like a smaller life. Anna arrived with coffee and a smile that dared the world to try anything else today. We checked me out of the hotel. She ignored my protests about paying the bill. We went to my ruined apartment and picked up what could be salvaged. I found the world's okayest brother mug, miraculously unbroken in the sink. I wrapped it in a t-shirt and put it on top of my bag like a flag. At her house, a bungalow that smelled like crayons and cinnamon, my niece Sophie ran at me with the force of a small comet. "T.O.," she yelled, climbing me like a tree. My nephew Mateo, 5 and serious, looked up from his Lego and asked, "Are you staying here?" "For a little while," I said. He nodded like a landlord evaluating a tenant. "Okay," he decided. "You can have the couch for it if you need it." In the afternoon, Anna insisted on errands. "You need things that aren't lost," she said. At Home Depot, she bought caulk for the sticking drawer and a plant that looked like optimism if optimism had leaves. She also bought me a toolbox even though I already had one. "This one lives here," she said. "So you have a reason to come back even after you move out." We ate dinner at Mom's house that night. She cried for a full minute after I told her, then cried again because she was mad at herself for crying when she needed to be strong for you, which made us both laugh so hard we forgot to be sad, which made her cry again because feelings are not linear. Mom packed leftovers I could have used to open a small restaurant. "You will come here every Sunday," she said, like a decree from a benevolent queen. "We will make chilaquiles and a plan." The plan, as it turned out, was less about jobs and more about stitching myself back together. I still looked for work, of course. I sent out resume after resume, wrote cover letters that tried to sound confident, and not like someone who had recently lost the scaffolding of his life. I set a goal: 3 applications before lunch, 1 walk after. I tracked money like a hawk with a spreadsheet that would have impressed even Camille. But the other half of the plan was learning to show up where I had space rather than where I had status. I helped Anna get Sophie ready for school, while Anna searched for Mateo's shoes that he swore had gone on an adventure without me. I took Mom to the doctor and translated the jargon doctors love into words she could trust. I fixed Anna's sticking drawer. Caulk didn't fix it. Loosening the slide and resetting the screws did. I started cooking dinner twice a week. "You're stress cooking," Anna said on a Thursday as I plated enchiladas like a man auditioning for a show called The Bachelor, Widowed Sister Edition. "Yes," I said. "Eat it." I also learned who to stop calling. Some friends texted, "Let me know if you need anything," then went silent when I said, "Actually, can you look over my resume?" Other friends said, "I'm coming over with beer." And we watched bad action movies while he pretended not to notice when I cried at the dumb parts. An old colleague forwarded my resume to 3 hiring managers and wrote, "He's the one you call when a fire starts and you need someone to move people out calmly." Another former friend posted a photo drinking Prosecco with Marissa and wrote, "Love my work family." Under it, I unfollowed him. There wasn't rage. There was simply clarity, like when a window gets cleaned and you realize you mistook smudges for fog. One Tuesday, 2 weeks into unemployment, Julio called. "Insurance says the repairs will take at least a month," he said. "Management can cover another week at the hotel." "Thank you," I said. "But I'm with my sister. I'll come by to get my mail." "You have a letter," he said. Certified. My stomach tightened. Certified letters bring good news precisely never. It was from the landlord's legal team. I was being asked to vacate for cause due to extensive water damage rendering the unit uninhabitable. It was worded like a kindness and acted like eviction. I called Robert, the lawyer friend of Anna's husband, who is the kind of person you want in your life because he says things like, "We'll handle this." "We'll negotiate," Robert said. "You're not paying rent on a place you can't occupy. They'll try to get you to release them from responsibility. You will not. You will get your deposit back in full plus a relocation credit, because what happened is a building systems failure. Do not sign anything without me." "Thank you," I said, the words made of equal parts humility and awe. People who know how to fight for you are a specific love language. On Thursday, I finally got an interview, not for a job like the one I had, but for a role at a nonprofit that managed logistics for disaster relief shipments. Less money, more meaning, the kind of line you write in a journal and then roll your eyes at later. The interview was on Zoom, so I set up on Anna's patio, where the afternoon light made the geraniums look like they'd been painted by someone who knew the names of reds. Daniel, the director, a woman named Priya, said through the screen, "I'm going to ask you something I ask everyone. Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and you made it less wrong." I laughed, then apologized. "I'm sorry," I said. "It's just, most of my stories this month start with everything went wrong." "Tell me one," she said. So I told her about the São Paulo project, the part I hadn't been allowed to finish. I told her about a vendor delay that threatened a launch, about rerouting shipments, about taking heat from 3 time zones, while making sure the junior people on my team didn't burn out. Because someone needs to remember that humans are not servers you can just spin up more instances of. I told her about how calm is contagious, and how sometimes the best thing you can do for a room on fire is to be the person who lowers their voice. She listened. She asked smart follow-ups. She said, "We need someone who can move boxes and hearts." I didn't hear from her for a week. In that week, everything else kept happening because life doesn't wait for you to get good news. Mateo lost his first tooth and insisted on writing a note to the tooth fairy that began, "Do you pay by weight?" Mom made pozole and refused to let me wash dishes because your hands look tired. I helped Sophie learn to tie her shoes with the bunny ears method because she found loop around the tree insulting. On Friday, Priya called. "We want you," she said simply. "It's less than you were making. It's more than we normally pay. It's an offer we hope you will accept because we need someone like you and because, frankly, you need us too." "I do," I said, my voice breaking in that kind of cry that isn't sadness or happiness but the relief of a muscle finally unclenching. The same day, Robert called. "We got it," he said. "Your deposit back in full plus 2 months of your rent as relocation credit. They wanted you gone quietly. We let them have the gone and took the quietly." I hung up and sat on the curb outside Anna's house. The sun was low and kind. Across the street, a woman watered her hibiscus and waved at me like we'd known each other for years. Maybe we had in the hidden way neighbors do. I texted Camille the news about the job, because we had once shared these things, and because closure sometimes looks like a screenshot. She wrote back, "That's great for you, Daniel. I leave for London Monday. Wishing you all the best," I typed, "You too." Then I deleted it and typed, "Thank you. Take care of yourself." It was such an adult text I almost wanted to give myself a prize. That night, in Nina's backyard after the kids were in bed, we sat with our feet up and a bottle of wine we couldn't really afford but did anyway. I told her about Priya and the job. She squealed in exactly the way Sophie does when she gets ice cream. Then she got quiet. "What?" I asked. "Do you realize," she said, "that you lost everything in one day and somehow gained something better over the next 30? "I didn't gain a partner," I said, "because I am stupid and literal." "You gained proof," she said, "of who shows up, of who you are when things fall apart, of what kind of work fills you instead of empties you, of how much rice it takes to make mom stop crying." We laughed. Then I told her something I hadn't told anyone. When Camille said we should end it, I said, I felt this quiet, like the noise behind my temples had been turned off. "I've been trying to keep us floating for so long I forgot how to swim for myself." Anna clinked her glass against mine. "To losing things that were drowning you," she said. At my new job, the first week was chaos in the way only meaningful work can be. A typhoon hit the Philippines, and we moved pallets of generators across a world that insists on making the simplest things complicated. I learned to use software that looked like Tetris for adults. I learned that "we need it yesterday" is not only a saying in my old industry. I learned that in a room full of people who care more about what gets done than who gets credit, I can breathe. Priya wasn't an easy boss, but she was a fair one. She called me into her office on Wednesday and said, "Everyone says you make the room calmer. Do you know how rare that is?" I said it was probably because my life had been a sitcom for a month and a half, and anything without a laugh track felt like peace. On my third Friday, I went back to my old building to pick up mail. Julio hugged me so hard my spine cracked in at least 3 languages. "You look better," he said. "Like someone opened a window in your head." "I think someone did," I said. There was one letter addressed in handwriting I knew, Camille's. I sat on the stoop and opened it. Inside was the photo booth strip, the one from my desk, and a note. "Thought you should have this. Thank you for the years we tried. See." I put the photo in my wallet behind a picture of Sophie and Matteo making faces. The past doesn't disappear. It takes a seat a row back. I found a new place 2 months later. Smaller, brighter, with floors that creaked in a way that sounded like honesty. The landlord is a woman named Harpreet who says things like, "If anything breaks, we fix it for real, not with tape." I signed the lease and texted Anna. "I'm moving Saturday. Tell the troops they came like a small army." Mom brought breakfast burritos for 12 people, even though there were 5 of us. Julio showed up with a dolly he borrowed permanently from the old building. Robert refused to put down a box because lawyers can carry things too. Sophie decorated my new fridge with a drawing of a house labeled Tio's Castle, which seems like a promotion I didn't deserve. Matteo asked, "Where will you put the couch fort?" And I said, "Right here," and we built one before we carried in the last box. Because what's the point of adulthood if you can't choose when to put off work for a fort? That evening, after everyone left, I stood in the middle of my new living room and listened. The apartment made the small noises of a place learning your name. I unpacked the world's okayest brother mug and put it on a shelf where I'd see it every morning. I put the photo of me and Camille in a drawer, not because I was hiding it, but because I'm not a museum. I set up my desk by a window that looked onto a street where a kid learned to ride a bike that day, while 3 adults clapped and one held their breath so hard I heard it. I slept that night like someone who had walked 4 miles and lost a job and a home and a relationship, and then, after all that, found a way back to himself through the ordinary acts of people who loved him. When I woke, the world hadn't changed. The coffee machine still hissed. The cat, Anna's, visiting without permission, still knocked a spoon off the counter. But I had what I lost in one day. A title people respected, a zip code people envied, a woman people thought made me look successful. What I found in the days after. A sister who shows up with food before you know you're hungry. A mother who shoves leftovers into your arms like blessings. A lawyer who says we and means it. A building super who is the mayor of doing the right thing. A boss who needs you because she believes the world is fixable and wants your hands on it. Two kids who think forts are more important than furniture. A neighborhood where hibiscus flowers the size of plates wave in the afternoon and strangers water the sidewalk. Like it might grow, I learned that the people who care about you don't say, if you need anything, and wait for a calendar invite. They say, I am on my way. They sit with you while you eat arroz con pollo and cry into your napkin. They hand you a roller and say, we're painting this wall because fresh coats make everything smell like possible. They answer their phones and their doors and your worst impulses with patience. They let you fix their sticking drawer because dignity runs in two directions. I also learned the quieter truth. I wish someone had told me at 25, but suspect I would have had to live to understand. You are allowed to rebuild your life around the things that make you useful to others and kind to yourself. You are allowed to trade a bigger paycheck for work that lets you sleep. You are allowed to measure success in casseroles delivered and forts constructed and pallets moved toward people who need generators before their insulin warms. I lost everything in one day. I tell people now when I'm being dramatic over beer. And then I found out who actually wanted me around when there was nothing left to win from knowing me. The punchline is that there was always something to win. Me. The version of me who doesn't keep score, who lets his sister be strong for him without calling it debt, who can look his past in the eye and say, thank you for getting me here. You can rest now. On the 1-year anniversary of the day I carried a banker's box onto the sidewalk and learned how loud a world can be when you fall out of its routine, we gathered at my place. The same small army. Mom brought way too much food. Anna told her not to, and then packed half of it into my fridge anyway. Priya dropped by with a bottle of champagne that cost more than my first car payment, and said, to people who lower their voices when the room catches fire. Julio fixed my screen door, even though nothing was wrong with it. 'Cause love is sometimes finding a hinge to tighten. Mateo asked if we could build a couch fort, even though we are guests, and I said, that is exactly when we must. And we did. When everyone left, I stood in the doorway and looked down the hall. The floor creaked like honesty. The hibiscus waved like an old lady gossiping with the breeze. I washed the world's okayest brother mug because it makes coffee taste better than all the others, and because okay is not an insult when you've earned it. It means you have been measured against your worst day and come out something like enough. I used to think the most important part of my story would be the loss. Because that's the hook, the thing that makes people lean in. Now I know the most important part is what happened after. Quiet as a door unlocking. The part where people showed up and kept showing up, and I learned to let them. The part where I showed up for myself with a resume that told the truth without apology, and a heart that did the same. The part where I understood that everything I thought I needed was just scaffolding, and when it collapsed, the building didn't fall. It breathed.